Georgia, known for religion, a unique cuisine, a communist past, and Europe's up-and-coming rugby force. Fresh off the back of a 9th Rugby Europe Championship in 11 years, this Eastern European nation have gone from strength to strength. Georgia have dominated Europe's second-tier competition and find themselves ranked 12th in the world. The question is, why aren't they in the Six Nations? Georgian Rugby Union President Gocha Swanidze explained how their affinity with the sport should come as no surprise.
This is our game. Lelo was our game. A sport like rugby we've played for hundreds of years. We have such games in our blood, since our history is a constant battle. Since rugby is so close to our nature, I believe the only thing now is to develop the youth. Then we will be able to have a stronger voice on the world stage.
A product of this development is Captain Merab Sharikadze.
I can remember my first game. It was on a small pitch like this, no more than 3,000, and it was full, but you could still find the free places in the stadium. But now, if you play in a Lokomotiv, which is at least 30,000, you can hardly find any free space.
Georgia's attendances have been as high as 50,000, and head coach Milton Haig has seen the change on the pitch and at grassroots level.
Where we used to have kids basically going to football straight away as 5, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, I'm now getting parents coming to me saying, look, my boy is absolutely, or girl, is absolutely in love with rugby and they're playing rugby. I'm a footballer as a father, but their children are going to rugby instead of football, and I mean, that just says volumes.
Georgia won 2 games for the first time at the last World Cup, ensuring their qualification for 2019. Their last match against a Tier 1 nation was a narrow loss to the Six Nations Wales at the Principality Stadium. Georgians are in demand across Europe's top leagues, one of whom is no stranger to this stadium, Ospreys' Georgi Nemsadze.
Yeah, everyone knows Georgian scrum, Georgian forwards, one of the best in the world. We know that, and we can bring that in the Six Nations.
Internationally renowned for their pack, England coach Eddie Jones recently brought the Lelos over for scrumming practice.
What do you say? We were the biggest, ugliest scrum in the world. I think that's a bit harsh on our boys, but I know what he was meaning about that, and certainly he got us over there for a reason, because he rates our scrum as the best in the world.
With a scrum that can challenge one of Europe's best, it's easy to see why many have called for their inclusion.
This is not a new conversation, it's certainly a conversation that's had a reasonable amount of column centimetres and TV time, that's for sure. But I mean, I'm on record for a long time saying that we think that we'd add value to the current Six Nations competition. We certainly are ranking above Italy in terms of European teams, and if it was to be the Six Nations, the 6 best European teams in Six Nations, well then certainly Georgia would have to be in front of Italy.
If they were to get in, how would the format change? Former England international Brian Moore explains.
6 is the maximum because of the number of fixtures you have to play and the windows that are available. Whether you do a home and away playoff between bottom and top, if you ring fence the Six Nations so promotion and relegation is only considered every 2 or 3 or however many years people want to agree to. But if they haven't got the right to automatically go up, they can't ever be self-sustaining.
Rugby journalist Ichted David gives an insight into tournament history.
Six Nations have already experienced expansion by introducing Italy in 2000. They've seen how that experiment's gone on as a financial, as a logistical, as a sporting challenge as well. Where Italy haven't been the most successful team on the field. Georgia are that 7th team in European rugby, and the next step for Georgia would be to be part of the Six Nations.
I reached out to the Six Nations, who declined to comment, But what has their stance been?
Towards last year, Chief Executive John Feehan said that it wasn't the tournament's role to develop rugby outside of the 6 nations that participate in the competition, which is understandable considering that their main interest is for the 6 nations itself as a tournament, as a business, as an entity.
They don't see any reason why they should participate in the wider scheme of spreading rugby in other parts of Europe or other parts of the world, particularly when they've got a very successful tournament that raises a lot of money and it's very comfortable. And I call them the cosy club.
We're mindful that we know there'll be some detractors out there and in certain countries that will say, well, Georgia don't deserve that right, but again, we'd say that we've done everything possible, not only on the field but off the field, that would show that certainly Georgia at least should be given a chance.
That chance might just come as World Rugby overrule the 6 nations and have approved a landmark fixture between Italy and Georgia.
It would potentially be a precursor to what a playoff could potentially be like between the team that finished bottom of the 6 nations and the team that finished top of the new championship.
Especially if they were to win handsomely, it would certainly crystallise the minds of a lot of people who are already asking how long are we going to give it to them before they can become competitive. Because you can't have one team in a 6-team tournament perennially coming last.
6 Nations John Feehan recently stepped down, and there are murmurs that the 6 Nations Council are considering a possible expansion or change.
So that's important for us because it then sets down a marker. So it'll set a marker for ourselves, but it'll also set a marker for the existing partners within 6 Nations to then have a discussion. And if we win, then obviously that discussion just gets more amplified. That's all.
While that discussion takes place, Georgia's destiny is out of their hands. For now, they look to the Autumn Internationals, where they get to stake their claim against Italy, and this time, it might just be harder to ignore.